Well, this is not exactly a political statement as I start out on this Memorial Day, although I could say a lot about Memorial Day and politics in terms of the greatest generation. My dad and a couple of his brothers fought in World War II, and proud of that, proud of what America did in World War II and how they comported themselves around the world. Yeah, let's just end it there. Let's talk about our current government. This is from Amuse, Amuse. He says, incompetence. Elon Musk built more than 50,000 EV chargers at a total cost of $1.1 billion. Biden's $7.5 billion effort to build EV charging stations began in 2021, resulting in 7 or 8 completed chargers or zero point 0.2 stations per month. Now, I think he's confusing chargers and charging stations. I think these are 7 or 8 completed charger stations. So we might be talking about 20 or 30 completed chargers. I just want to be clear that we got those stats right. So what in the world is going on? Buttigieg, I think that's how you pronounce his name, is really being chastised by even some of the more left-leaning channels about the effort. The results are just horrific. They could have turned the job over to Elon, given him the 7.5 billion, and by now he probably would have built 350,000 EV chargers or maybe a lot more. Anyway, in the Some Things Never Change department, the Wall Street Journal has managed to write an entire article slamming battery electric trucks without ever mentioning Tesla. The headline was companies are balking at the high costs of running electric trucks. A Ryder analysis shows that operating expenses of low emission rigs are far higher than those for diesel trucks. Now, I didn't bother to take this article and tear it apart line by line because, well, some of the other battery electric trucks out there right now aren't so great. But to a certain extent, I would give the Wall Street Journal a pass because the Tesla Semi isn't exactly for sale as such. But they could have easily talked about what the Tesla semi truck is doing now, what it's going to do for the environment, what it's doing in terms of costs, what it's doing in terms of range. They could have talked about stuff that's really readily available. And there's a fairly large corporation called PepsiCo that has verified all the information. Anyway, Wall Street Journal, come on, step it up. So this is Randy Kirk. Yeah, hit the like and subscribe and notify button. We've got Brian White, Brian Wong, all the regular characters coming up this week. Brian White and I'll be doing a video shortly this morning, just in a few minutes, actually. We'll be doing a video that'll be up later today. And then I will do what normally is called Monday morning show, which is normally done on Sunday night. Because of Memorial Day, we'll be calling it the Tuesday morning show, and it'll be on Monday night, where we'll talk about what are the financial things that are coming up this coming week, what are the things that are going to potentially impact Tesla and or the markets this coming week. This show has been one of the most popular on a regular basis since I started doing it back, I think, in January of last year. Okay. Oh, also Patreon. Thank you. We got folks signing up again. That would be great. I could really use a bunch more. I think we're sitting around 100 members of Patreon right now. I would love to get that doubled, actually. Doubled would be just about perfect. If you have any interest in corresponding with me, if you'd like to email me, emailing works okay. DMing me on X works okay. There's lots of ways to communicate. You can communicate just down in the comments below, but I don't read every single comment anymore, just can't. And I certainly don't reply to every single comment. But Patreon members, yeah, first choice. If you want to be able to correspond, hit me up on Patreon. That's a way you can be sure I'll get back to you. All right, the baby boom generation has started to retire with a record 76 trillion in net worth, according to Ed Yardeni. They're spending on restaurants, cruises, travel, and healthcare. All these service industries have been expanding their payrolls thus boosting real incomes and fueling more spending. Now, Ed Yardini, you could have called me a year ago. We could have had this conversation. For a year on this channel, I've been talking about demographics, as Elon loves to talk about demographics, but he mostly talks about it in terms of the failure of young people to make babies, and therefore maybe the end of civilization is on the horizon. I like to talk. I've talked about that for I want to say it's been over 55 years, over maybe closer to 60 years that I've been talking about the demographic breakdown of the young and how that's impacting things like schools. So, for instance, just this last week, another headline, oh, surprise, surprise, there is a problem. We have not enough kids, and now they're going to have to close schools. Well, that's not a surprise. You can plan for this years and years in advance. You don't have to be surprised by it. It's something that can be predicted easily by looking at birth rates. So it's always surprising to me when people are not paying they're not paying any attention to the issues of demographics. So anyway, Ed, I've been talking for the last year on this show about the fact that we have a huge shift in wealth. We have a huge shift in population. We have a huge shift in how these older folks, this baby boom generation, how they're spending their money, but also how they're saving their money and how they're investing their money. And all of these things are impacting the market and will impact both the economy and the markets moving forwards. Yardini isn't the first to note. No, Randy Kirk was. Yardini isn't the first to note that the baby boomer bump, and he's made the point before. Older Americans have benefited from outsized gains in the stock and housing market since the start of the pandemic, allowing them to spend more and more. In fact, Americans 65 or older accounted for about 22% of consumer spending in 22 alone. Now, you'd think we could have newer statistics than 2022. According to the Labor Department, the highest share on record, millennials, on the other hand, are much less likely to spend their money on, much more likely to spend their money on necessities like housing and childcare, according to data from Bank of America. So the millennials, of course, those folks are like under 44, I think it is right now. And of course, their kids are still at home to the extent that they had kids. But these we really have to take into consideration how different the millennials are in terms of having maybe one child, maybe two children, compared to previous generations, and how they might be spending their money even in their 40s. Okay, as boomers have accrued more wealth, they also have been less impacted, generally speaking, by economic factors that are curbing spenders by younger generations, such as the Federal Reserve's interest rate campaign. Most have locked in their mortgage interest rate or paid off their homes completely and aren't looking to make other purchases that require borrowing. Rather, they're spending in the categories Yardini noted, like travel and entertainment. Boomers also tend to carry way less, didn't say way less here, I'm adding the way, are likely to carry way less consumer debt and are burdened with student loan repayments, except for a few real fools. So anyway, yeah, this is a critical thing to keep in mind. What the article fails to note is that the economy cannot be successful, cannot continue to grow on the backs of those who aren't producing. Sure, there are some among boomers who are still in the workforce, but the oldest are 79, even older than me, and the youngest are now 60. And the vast majority are already fully retired. Not only are these folks no longer providing actual work, but they have removed the most experienced and the most skillful portion of the workforce. This group is so powerful, the baby boomers, that not a single president has come from a younger population segment yet. Financially, boomers control most of the wealth. Jensen Huang is a boomer. Eric Schmidt, Tim Cook, Jeff Bezos are all boomers. Okay, sure. Satya Nadella, Elon Musk, Doug McMillon, CEO of Walmart, Sundar Pichai, they're all members of the X gen, but not by much. Every one of those individuals is in their 50s. Zuckerberg is, of course, only 40, and so he's a millennial, but in a way, he kind of acts like a millennial, don't you think? A little different from the other guys that I just listed? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, let's also take a quick cruise today. What we're going to do today is take a quick cruise around the other Elon Musk ventures. As I've mentioned before, we want to talk about these other ventures. Why? Because they all impact Tesla. Each one of them is a company that can have agreements going back and forth in terms of trading information, providing resources, even employees from time to time. And the only one we're not going to talk about this morning is X.com itself, because I think you already know what X.com is doing. And there hasn't been any real breakthroughs or real big news. But the other ones, I think pretty much down the line, all have pretty big things. So let's take a look here. X.ai finished their fundraising round, which produced $8 billion in cash and created a value for the company of $24 billion, according to reporting. The money seems likely to go directly to NVIDIA and or Dell and other similar companies who will be providing the hardware to build a massive supercomputer. The Wall Street Journal says the money will be used to take X.ai's first products to market, build advanced infrastructure, and accelerate research and development of future technologies. They were quoting representatives from X.ai. What about the Boring Company? The Boring Company is showing a video of Prufrock 2 emerging into daylight at the Virgin Hotel as the company continues to build out its Las Vegas loop. The folks at the Boring Company also mentioned that they have had 2 million cars already use the tunnels under Las Vegas. You know, I'm kind of surprised that we haven't seen more cities or other groups sign up yet. There were so many cities that were in conversations. They were, asking for bids and whatnot. But as far as I know, only Las Vegas is moving, and they're moving pretty rapidly with a very large project. It'll be interesting to see if and when this starts to become a thing. Now, Elon did mention the other day, he thinks within a few years, there will be point-to-point tunnels in all major cities. He's still very bullish on the Boring Company. Let's switch over to Neuralink. Neuralink has put out a call for patient number 2, which that has been approved now by the U.S. government, that they start a second trial. There's much talk also from Elon about the potential on patient number 1 to actually give him now some kind of Neuralink setup in his spine that would hook up to the Neuralink deal or by Bluetooth or whatnot. I'm not exactly sure how it's all going to work, but that then he would be able to get movement in his lower limbs. Elon is also talking about, and I'm not sure this will happen with patient number 2, but he's saying that one of the things they're really working hard now on is vision through Neuralink, which would be absolutely phenomenal. Okay, then we have SpaceX. Maybe that should have gone first. We saw multiple articles this last week suggesting they were going to go public, that there was going to be an actual public offering with a valuation of $200 billion. That was shot down by Elon, and not surprisingly to me, because he said there's no chance he's taking SpaceX public. Now, he has talked about taking just the division with the well, man, Starlink, taking the Starlink portion of SpaceX public. I wouldn't be surprised if that valuation was at $200 billion by its own, given that they now have, I think it's 3 million customers. I think is it 3 million? That's just in my head. I didn't look that up this morning. It seems like it's 3 million people that would be paying them roughly $100 a month. That I can multiply. That's $300 billion a month. Yeah. Anyway, the other thing with Starship, with SpaceX, is they've got the Starship going up, 4th launch. If everything happens as it's supposed to happen, that's going to launch about June 5th. So we'll be looking for that one. Okay, again, let me once again admonish you that Patreon would be something you could really make a difference this morning. $3, $5, $10, help out the channel. And then later this morning, Brian White, later tonight, the Tuesday morning show, and then all the regular stuff the rest of the week. Yeah, and nothing else really to report. So we'll end it here. It's been great talking to you.